I don't know if this guy was in the pro tank crowd. I feel like he might have been, but I don't know. We got my main man, Brenden Nunes, in the house. The HBK. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. I was definitely pro tank, to be
Uh,
honest.
I
Maybe
think
not this season, but in the past and generally, I usually am fall under pro tank. Yeah.
I'm having a good time with all these guys, man. I understand what everybody was talking about with Tank and everything. I get it, but this is just more confirmation. There's no guarantees when it comes to the lottery, man. You just go out there and whether you win or whether you're losing, you hope for the best. Indiana fell back. Where's that Muse? Where's that Muse at? They was talking about Indiana tanking, doing the right thing, and they got the same. Kings won the same amount. Well, the Kings move up in the lottery. We having fun with it today because they was talking crazy about taking all the whole last couple months. We having a fun with it today, but that's neither here nor there.
Where are you at right now, Kenny? You seem like you'd be a Jaden Ivy guy. I don't know if I'm off on that.
Do you know me? Do you know? Do you follow me on Twitter at all? What have I been doing for the last 20 hours? But trying to get everybody to understand there's one pick and one pick only. I don't really feel that way. Like I kind of I would be excited with any of the three that you talk about, Jaden Ivy, Keegan Murray, and my guy, Shaden Sharp. But I think Shaden, that's what we've been waiting for here. That's what we've been waiting for. We talk about I have epiphany and I see Dame Lillard. And I say, yo, this guy, he can score from all three levels. Man, that's what we need. We watch Jason Tatum. We watch Paul George. We watch Bradley Beal. Damn, man, we ain't never had nobody like that here. And I'm not saying that that's what Shaden Sharp is going to be. That's the mold of what he could be. And we like almost, well, Luka. But other than that, we almost never even have an opportunity to get these guys. These guys are always gone before the Kings get to draft. We don't get them in trades. We obviously can't get them in free agency. Here's your chance. I'm swinging for the fences, man. What you think about that, B?
Yeah, I think at the top, you kind of have to swing for the fences. I mean, I get that the Kings can't miss, but also to your point, like when are they going to have another opportunity to get a star caliber player? I still got to decide if I think Sharp is that type of guy. I just got to put more hours into apparently high school film, which is going to be fun, let me tell you. But so I still got to decide if Sharp is that type of guy. But if that sort of upside is there, I mean, there's only so many opportunities the Sacramento Kings get as a franchise to acquire potentially superstar, like star caliber players. So if Sharp falls into that, like it's hard to overlook it. And I think some people could think that Ivy falls into that.
Understandably.
Yeah, star caliber, like the space creation that you see, the athleticism that rivals De'Aaron Fox, John Morant. Like, I definitely see the intrigue there, and it's kind of hard to pass on upside when you're at the top of the draft.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Brendan, I think the biggest question is, did you do your homework last night?
I was told to not do it last night and to do it today.
No.
What was the one that you guys, I was listening. What was the new one that's on his list?
There's someone Mary.
There's something about Mary he still hasn't watched.
Sean came up with one yesterday. I can't remember. So
we did say, so I married an axe murderer, but there's also, Sean did come up with one that you were supposed to watch. He writes them down. Like, it's good.
I didn't write down yesterday's, to be honest. To get caught up.
The education of Brenden Nunes that we try to provide at the Kings Beat. Brendan, when we look at a player like Sharp, right? It's not that long ago that all we had to go off of was high school footage for high school players that were coming straight into the draft. So why do you think it is that, I know this is probably before you were born, that high school players were allowed to come directly into the draft, but why do you think it is that we're starting to see that that be scrutinized so much? Because again, I mean, LeBron James, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett. Like, there are a lot of guys who came straight in from high school into the pro game, and there wasn't this stigma that, oh man, I got to watch high school footage.
Yeah, I think that it was just more normal and accepted probably at the time, and guys were watching high school film with the idea of, okay, should this guy just be taken now and skip the college process, as sometimes a little bit more of a risk, or like drafting in advance, so that way, maybe if we take him out of high school, he'll still be available at the early teens. But if we think he's going to have a great year in college, if he goes next year, I bought my dog a new toy yesterday, and it was not a good idea, let me tell you.
You chose poorly.
Yeah, I didn't think it through at the store.
That's from Indiana Jones, just so you know. The Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I got Indiana Jones, to be fair. I think that just those guys, like, the talent is so obvious that at the time, and also because coming out of high school was normal and just what happened at the time for guys that were supreme talents, but they were so just ahead of their class that it was stand out, like this guy is going to be a star pretty much. And maybe there's a couple outliers of guys that were taken out of high school that didn't pan out that way, but I like Sharp's name wasn't one I had heard years in advance, like Victor Wambayama or however you pronounce that last name. I absolutely butchered it, but like, there's these generational talents that of for years, like LeBron, KG, those type of guys. I think this Victor that's coming into the next draft class, the French kid. So I think that I just hadn't heard Sharp in that same way. And since I think it was expected at this point that you get a little bit of college time with these prospects, that it's just a little different.
Not to mention, Brenden, it's scary. It's scary being like, yo, this kid in high school against kids who, are going to be playing intramural next year, not even on the college team. They're going to be playing intramurals and at 24 on Saturday mornings. They're dominating these guys. It's hard to get an evaluation for them. So I know I'm big on Jaden Sharp, and I know why I am. I completely understand people that are like, pump the brakes, man. We're talking EYBL. We're talking high school. Like I get it. I completely get it. And I understand the caution that people have with just jumping in to Jaden Sharp the way that I have. I just look at the skill set. I look at the measurables, the wingspan, all this other stuff, and the shot. That's really what gets me. Like when I see him shoot, I think that's transferable. I think that can, especially at 18, 19 years old, he can do that and more as he moves along. And I look at Ivy, and I don't know if the shot is going to come along. Like I almost see De'Aaron Fox. Like I see Ja, but I almost see De'Aaron Fox. And there's things about Fox's game today, 5 years into his career, that we're like, I don't think he's ever going to get better at that. We hoped when we drafted that, he was going to be a better free throw shooter or he was going to be a better jump shooter. Here we are 5 years in, it's not there. And that worries me as well. But I like those guys too.
Yeah. And look, I'm looking, Soren Smith brings up Kwame Brown, Eddie Curry, but the other name he brings up is Martell Webster. Shaden Sharp, like, again, we can start doing comparisons. Like, Martell Webster might be a comp.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he might be one of those players who didn't work out at all at the NBA level. But, again, he was young. We got to watch a bunch of tape. We looked at measurements, and he did all of the things that you would think that a star-level player would be. And then I think he went number 6.
I think he was I think he was 3.
I'm not sure. It's
been
maybe, yeah. So my point is, like, it's an unknown. Like, when you're drafting this way, it is a sort of a shot in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be worth it. Brenden, what do you think? Like, we've talked about value, but like, and we even talked about trading and keeping the pick last night on the pod. But when you look at this spot here at 4. Just how much value do you think the Kings increased with by going from 7 to 4?
I mean, it's a definite jump in value. I think it's weird because it's maybe not as much as what typically jumping from 4 to 7 would be. It's still, like, undeniably an increase in value. There's no two ways about it, but I do kind of buy into the whole 3-man draft. And what it's going to take is a team really valuing Sharp or Ivy and valuing the number 4 spot because they like one of those 2 prospects. And there's just no guarantees that anyone's going to fall in love with those 2 guys or feel like they couldn't go to Detroit if they did like one of those guys and maybe they're available at pick 5. Like, so I don't think it's a ginormous jump, but I do think it helps in just the course of this offseason with McNair and Wes Wilcox and the assets that they have to work with. And the interesting aspect to me with Sharp is how much access is he going to give all these teams? Like, how many workouts is he going to do with all of these guys? Is he going to do individual ones for the teams in the top 5? Or are they all going to have to come to him at his own individual pro day? Like, how much are Wes Wilcox and Monty McNair going to be given an opportunity to really understand Sharp as a player, as a person? Like, are they actually going to see him get runs in against some of these other top prospects? Like, that's what's going to be interesting to me, because if they take Sharp, I have to trust that they did their background, and they're going to have so much more opportunity to do background on Sharp and get information on him from third-party people or direct workouts, if that is the case. But it's going to be interesting to me to see the type of availability that Sharp gives to teams in this process.
You're listening to ESPN 1320 KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, an Odyssey station, and driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge. It's Kenny Caraway. It's James Ham riding with me. Shotgun today. Damien's out for the day. We got Brenden Nunes, a heartbreak kid from the Kings Herald, on as we talk about the Kings moving up to number 4 in the draft. I want to say one thing before I get to the question I have for Brenden. With Soren talking about, the failed high school guys. And I get it. I understand that. For every Kobe and KG, there's a Martell Webster. There's a Corleone Young. I get it. Don't get it twisted. But how many great college players do we see come into the NBA and do nothing? How good was Jimmer Fredette in college? How good was Nick Stauskas in college? Like, we see this all the time. And this is what the draft is, right? The draft is a crapshoot. The draft is evaluating these guys and really doing the best that you can, but hoping that they reach the potential that you may have set for them. There's nobody, whether it's Shaden Sharp, Jaden Ivy, Keegan Murray, who's a sure thing, or most of these guys aren't sure things. You know what I mean? Kevin Durant, James, LeBron James, all those guys. Yeah, we see that. Aldrin brings in Thomas Robinson, was another guy that was an All-American Player of the Year in college at Kansas. And from game 1, it was clear that he wasn't able to play in the NBA. So those things happen, and we can pick these guys apart and line them up with guys that didn't work or guys that did work all day long. But at the end of the day, I just feel like it's all an educated guess. That's all it really is an educated guess, and you got to hope that these guys reach the potential that you set for them, right, Brenden?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you have favorites that you feel really good about in the draft, then I think more often than not, like, trust your gut. As long as there's good research behind your reasoning and everything. Like, I'm not all opposed to, like, I think Jabari Smith Jr. is perfect for this team. And I really like Chet Holmgren as well. Like, I really would consider packaging the 5th overall pick and, say, a top 4 protected 2023 first to move up and get Chet or Jabari. Like, I understand the risk involved. Like, the next draft is really promising at the top with Victor from France, and then you got Scoot Henderson. Like, I know the guys at the top of the next draft are really intriguing, but at some point, like, I think the Kings got to use some of these assets and really make something happen right now. And if they believe in somebody like Jabari or Chet, like, I don't think that that's out of the question.
No. I look at those 3 guys at the top, and James talked about this a little bit, and I could see them even falling. I don't think Jabari would be the one to fall. I think it may be somebody like Paolo, who somebody could be in love with. Jaden Ivy, somebody could be in love with Shaden Sharp and take that potential, and maybe Paolo would be the one that falls down. And I think Paolo would be a great fit here for the Kings. And James talked about it. You're just in a really good spot in this particular draft at the 4, because you have so many options. You got so many things that could happen as far as people falling down, somebody trying to move up, and being able to kind of maneuver around that. It's a really good spot for the Kings to be in this year.
Yeah, Kenny, and I think every day, like, moving forward, we're going to gather more and more information on all these prospects. So, like, someone mentioned it in in the chatty house, but the NBA is starting to release the combine measurements, and like Shaden Sharp just came in at 6'4" without shoes on, and so he all of a sudden isn't a small forward. He's a shooting guard. That
James, when that happens, he's never going to play without shoes. So
well, of course,
I'm almost not sure why they even measure without shoes. Like,
well,
he never.
but
played.
I remember when Hassan Whiteside showed up in flip flops and didn't measure 7 foot tall because he measured at 6'11" 3/4 because he was wearing flip flops and not tennis shoes. So there is a difference between being a 7-footer and not being a 7-footer, but still, like, that puts him at 6'6" at best, and 6'6", and his wingspan 6'11" 3.5. So I mean, that's a huge like a +7. Height to wingspan. That's tremendous. But again, he's more of a shooting guard going forward than he is a small forward. And that does change the calculus a little bit on him. And I think we're going to find out more and more as we're going through this process, like how tall guys are, how, can they lift at all? Their speed and agility, it doesn't look like much, but those things do actually tell you something specifically on the defensive end. And I think this is a good point to like start mulling through. I know that, like, I've heard concerns that the Kings don't believe, and other teams don't believe that Keegan Murray is as tall as they've said he is, and so they're waiting to figure out what exactly the measurements come in at before they make a true sort of assessment on the whole package.
James, one thing I'm curious about. Do you think that if the Kings say they really like Ivy, and that's the guy at 4 for them, the other 3 that we assume are gone are, that being Paulo, Chet, and Jabari, but while they do really like Ivy, they think that he's not a great fit alongside Fox and Sabonis. Do you think that we know, based on like the previous drafts that we've seen from McNair, like what that sort of scenario would lead to? Do you think that they'd be willing to just take the guy that they think is more talented, even if the fit isn't there? I mean, kind of fault to me could revolve back to McNair having and Wes Wilcox having possibly 1 year left on their contract.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up that specific thing. What you don't want here is a general manager and assistant general manager to make a decision on this draft pick based on their futures with the team. That's another reason, along a myriad of other reasons, why the Kings should at this point go and extend Monty and Wes. To me, without any question. I mean, you just let them hire a coach. They need to have a contract. What you don't want them to do is just to make a knee-jerk reaction, because I could make the argument very clearly that you could trade the 4th pick for Jeremy Grant, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's not good." Well, does that make your team better? Yes, it does. It makes it better next year. And so when you put someone in a position to make a rash decision to save their own job, then that's on you. That's not on them for making that decision. You would hope that they would have like a very, very good heart and thinking about the future of the franchise more than their own future, but that's just not the reality. That's just not the reality at all. So yeah, I mean, you have to manage this thing properly. Like, it's difficult. Like, but I get the question. This is a point where the franchise can make mistakes very easily, and they need to be all on the same page moving forward.
Brenden, you're absolutely allowed to change this 15 times if you need to before the June NBA draft. But today, who are you taking at number 4 if you're the Sacramento Kings?
Assuming that Jabari, Chet, and Paulo are gone, I'm going Jaden Ivy. Okay. The athleticism is too tantalizing. It pops off the screen. And I think that there's the idea with Ivy that he has all the things you can't teach, and the areas that he needs to improve are typically more teachable skills, is kind of what I'm subscribing to right now. The flashes of space creation do it for me. I'm buying in the 35% from 3. He shot 52.2% effective field goal percentage on catch and shoots. Like, I see how it could work on offense, and hard to pass on star ceiling to me.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I might take you up on changing that a couple times over before June 23rd.
I'm shading right now, but I like Jaden Ivy. Like, he's amazing. He's fun to watch. He's a blur out there. And I say that he's a lot like De'Aaron Fox. I'm maybe in the minority with that's not a bad thing. I love watching De'Aaron Fox when he's clicking and when he's on. He's a fun player. He's great on the offensive end. He has the ability to do things on the defensive end, and that's the same things that I see out of Ivy. Like, I think he has a lot of those same attributes. So if the Kings went with him, hey man, I'd be all for it. I'd be so excited to see him with the Sacramento Kings, man. Am I mistaken, or did you change that? Were you on Keegan Murray a lot of the time, or were you always on Ivy?
I was probably on Murray when they were sitting around 7, but with 4, I think I was on Ivy. I'm probably trade the pick, to be honest, but it depends what, that's all circumstantial based on what is and isn't available.
The price has gone up, Brenden. The price has gone up for that. All right, that's what I'm telling everybody that's calling me. The price is going up. Once again, Fat Joe said it best. Yesterday's price is not today's price. All right, that's just what it is. So, Brenden, we appreciate you pulling up, man. You can check him out at the King's Herald, man. You can check him out on the King's Beat every now and then with James Ham. I love listening to you guys, man. You guys are doing a great job with that.